Hey, okay, we are live. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to be here. Welcome to our podcast, Regeneration Nation. We're your hosts, Alex and Caesar. I'm Caesar. And this here is our guru, master of nutrition science, Alex Arthur. We're really pleased to be here today. And it is Earth Day. What a beautiful day to be here.
It's an amazing day. And this has been a long time coming. This is going to be the first episode. Really excited for this. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm very grateful to be here with you on this mission and on this podcast. And we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of great conversations I'm really looking forward to, and eventually a lot of other people joining us on the podcast. And really what our mission is on this podcast, for all the viewers or the listeners know, eventually viewers as we start going to video as well. But we really want to educate people to find pragmatic solutions in sustainability, understand the evolution of agriculture, and give people power and hope through real tangible knowledge that they can use in their everyday life. So that's really what we want to do with this podcast. And we really want to be useful, we want to be helpful, we want to spread the word, spread knowledge, and really have great conversations on how to make the world a more sustainable place, better place. And this is unreal, our whole 2 life journeys that have brought us to this moment. So everyone knows, Caesar and I were best friends, along with my twin brother Thomas, in elementary school from the time when we met in junior kindergarten. Must have been when we were 4 years old, just starting the school process, and then all the way.
So like grade 1 recess was my first memory of like the twins, my besties, my best friends. 100% was recess, grade 1.
Yeah,
and was even further back, but we were friends since then. But what I remember for sure is grade 1. So we were 6 years old. Yeah, 6.
Yeah, 6 years old. Yeah, and then we went to grade 3, and then you moved away, and that was a big moment in our lives at the time. And we were thick as thieves. We were the best of friends, hanging out all the time, and had no idea that our lives would converge again in this way 20 years later on this kind of mission, and our life missions intersecting with each other. And I couldn't be happier, honestly. Couldn't be happier. It's funny how life works. Right. And we were out of touch, right? Just to let the listeners know, we were kind of in and out of touch for about 20 years,
maybe
25 years. Yeah. And then coming back in our 30s here, 25 years, right?
Yeah.
And then coming back and really reconnecting in a very meaningful way last January, where I had started my journey in teaching, and then you had just started your journey, or were right in the midst of your journey of starting in farming. And we reconnected right at the same time, talking about the exact same things, dynamic and regenerative farming. And yeah, and here we are, a year and a bit later, starting a podcast. So this is really exciting. Really exciting.
It's been a crazy way to,
yeah, and
after 25 years and seeing that our missions, even though we hadn't even connected on what those missions were completely intersectional missions. So yeah, what a small world, and definitely super stoked, brother, to be here with you doing this podcast, because it's that big gap of friendship that we really missed out on. But then when we rekindled it, just kind of everything just flowed really, really well. We were talking the same language, missions were very aligned, and here we are today starting the podcast. So crazy place, man. We're really happy to be here on Earth Day with you.
It's so beautiful, and we want to get in, and we want to kind of get into each of our stories here. And I don't know if we want to bring it to that radio mic, radio level mic. Definitely. We got Caesar with his radio voice over here. I'm really pumped. But tell us a little bit about like I want everyone to know. I always get excited. I could listen to this forever, and every time you tell me, I just get really excited when I hear your story and your evolution, and it's amazing. Honestly, I think we're all excited for your book, eventually on your life story when you write it. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's coming in the future at some point. But yeah, just tell the listeners we want to know about Caesar and your story and how you've got to this point and your mission.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Working on getting Alex has the mic for me, so I'm using my radio host super mic here, and really excited to be here, of course. Thanks, Alex, for the introduction. Happy Earth Day to everybody, and thank you for joining us. We're really excited to be able to share a lot of content with you today. A part of what we're doing here has a lot to do with my venture into farming. The pandemic kind of directed me into a different path, and then farming was the only vision that I had. So when the pandemic hit, I had to realign myself. I had to repivot myself into, just a new industry because I was laid off. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I just knew that I wasn't going to live with my parents in a lockdown. I wasn't going to just give up because I've just been laid off. So I built a Mercedes Sprinter van, like van life. I was so crazy about that because everybody on YouTube was doing it. So I'm like, I must have one of these. I ended up doing that, but then I also, because of COVID, I couldn't go anywhere. So I have a van and it's great, but I can't go anywhere. So I ended up thinking about it very thoroughly and said, I have to do this farm thing. Like, it's time. It kind of had to be. And then certainly I manifested myself a farm. I found somebody who would be willing to lease their farm, and it wasn't a farm. Let's just be clear. It was a jungle, and we took the lease on. I took the lease on at the time, and was living in my van while I was getting this farm into a position that would be livable, that I could live in the van and also farm the land at the same time. And I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I was going to do it. And, this is year 2 of being here, and I'm sure we'll be able to discuss all of the leaps of how this came to fruition, but certainly it's been a very long journey in just the last 2 years. So many changes have come to the farm. In a nutshell, we were able to get the lease for a 10-year term, which seems short, but in 10 years you can do quite a lot. And that's secured us a farm location where we can then create somewhat of an education center to teach people about farming and to teach people how to grow their own food. And the pandemic really is what prompted that. All of those crazy prices, the markets and the economy was all over the place. People were panicking. Food was, people were doing a lot of price gouging. A lot of the world was in total chaos, basically. So that was the prompt, right? To start a farm, work in an organic fashion where we can regenerate the soil while we're growing food, and then at the same time be able to escape the kind of 9-to-5 work-life scenario and run our own farm and be able to do what we're doing here today. So yeah, thank you for coming back into my life, Alex, because we wouldn't be here today kind of discussing the importance of regenerating our planet, the importance of localized farming, and our initiative and our mission is basically that, to bring local farms to communities all around us, starting with this one. This farm is called Poly Green Acres, and this farm, specifically this one location, will be a host or an education center where we will have people come to see how they can learn the food systems that we're applying here and how we can integrate them into society as a whole in all of our communities all around us. So that's kind of a short, a brief, sweet version of who I am and how we got to this point. And I would like to add that the intersectionality after we spoke in January, where you were manifesting a farmer, you were saying, I need to meet a farmer that's doing this kind of work. I was scouring to find you I was like, I need to find Alex. There's something calling me to Alex that I scoured Instagram, Facebook, you name it. And of course, I don't have an algorithm attached to you, or I don't have any mutuality or mutual friends. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to try everything. Alex Arthur _ I'm going to try. I tried like all of these crazy combinations to find you. And, I remembered your band, and then I knew you had a band. So then I went through the Spotify route to give me some more insight. How do I find this guy? How do I find these guys? Even if I can talk to Thomas and Alex, see how they're doing. I needed to reach out, and you were just manifesting somebody who was in the farming industry. So that's the crazy intersect right there.
It still blows my mind to this day, and it's really like, you ask the universe for something, and then out comes your best friend, that you hadn't seen in so long, and that's the person that you're trying to manifest. So it's like the total best of every world in terms of that. And it's one of those things where I'm sure a lot of the listeners will have their own personal stories on that, something being like really great that comes into their life. And in this case, it was my story and how we got there. And I wanted to ask for the audience, like, why you got into farming and what really truly like drew you and called you as a farmer. When was that, like, the moment or the trigger that was like, I want to get into farming? Because for the audience, Caesar had an amazing career in a lot of different careers, really. And a big one in event management and a big one in hospitality, right? So what really was like, wow, regenerative farming and farming, why? What was that moment?
Yeah, definitely had a lot to do with serving food for years and being in the food industry. So in the restaurant world, the amount of waste that goes out the doors, obviously, I know you guys, you and your brother were both in hospitality as well, restaurant world. It's just serving food in my head. When I was serving, I loved the idea of serving tables, because my two scenarios in life were go work construction or in restaurants. So it was like really heavy work, or work with your head, not with your back. But I mean, it's still hard work. Not to say that serving tables is super, super easy, and you still walk all day, you still walk hard, you're on your knees, you're going back and forth. By the end of a serving tables day, you would be at like 30,000 steps. So it's not light work, not to make it light. But I think out of the wanting to feed people, there was always this in my head, I wanted to feed people, and I always thought that I was doing good by feeding people. And then seeing how the restaurant industry, they all just pick from one massive supplier. All the restaurants I went to, I was like, oh wow, they all have the same, like they're buying from the same people. I didn't understand how, like, I started connecting all those dots. When I was in retail working for big grocery, I was so connected to food that way too. It's like, oh, I want to eat organic, and I want to do good for the planet, and I want to be this, game changer human who, eats well, supports organic, eats regenerative. I'll support the farm. I'll pay the extra food. And from being in retail, grocery, dry goods, and food, to then moving into the hospitality world, I just started seeing all these kind of areas of opportunity where all the food that we're ordering is not local, is like mostly coming from all over the world. So I would kind of work in hospitality, get a bit burnt out, and then switch back into construction, because it was a lot less people oriented, more thing oriented, and I was able to just, shovel rocks all day, or just do a lot of heavy construction work or skilled construction work, whatever it might be, or landscaping construction. So even building gardens, even planting landscaping trees, that was all the in between work that I did in between serving, because serving is highly demanding and taxing for your brain. So I kind of connected my food handling experience with my construction experience. And during the pandemic, I said, how it all hit me that the only way that I can possibly contribute in the best of way to society is not through serving tables at a restaurant, because I wasn't fulfilled. I was constantly kept burning out, and I didn't understand, what I'm doing is so good. Why am I burning out if it's so good? And it ended up that, I was so burnt out by the end of it, that during the pandemic, it was like the great reset. It gave me an opportunity to look back and see what my options were. And then everything, when I said I want to be a farmer, an organic farmer, because there's not enough organic Canadian vegetables. Number one, there's no local markets for all of the organic vegetables that I'd like to eat. And when I actually went plant-based. I stopped eating meat 7 years ago. I had to really restructure how I thought about food, because if I'm constantly buying pears and apples from Argentina or from Chile, I'm really contributing to a bigger, badder problem, which is the distribution problem of agriculture. So I said, how do I kind of nip a few things in the butt? How do I find my mission?
Mhm.
How do I alleviate my distribution contribution, because we're constantly buying foods from all over the world? And how do I lead a life that I want to pursue for the rest of my life? And organic farming vegetables and creating a polyculture system was the kind of my answer. I said, well, I'm going to do this. And I went really deep into understanding farming and learning more about farming and market gardening and organic vegetables, and realized how there's a huge hole in Ontario in the market for organic vegetables. And then I just dedicated my soul, my mind, my heart to what organic vegetable growing was going to be. And everything just started aligning. The farm just came up. The housing came up. I met the right partner in my life. We eventually expanded, from living in a van to living in a trailer. Everything just started to manifest and come my way. And then, of course, my partner, Shelby, I met her, and that was a huge addition to our homestead, because even, my girlfriend is aligned with what I'm doing. So even my partner was aligned. Everything was aligning with this massive goal to become a farmer, because it's a massive feat and it's incredibly hard work. So the construction and the hospitality aligned the hard work with the food distribution and feeding people. All of those kind of elements all came together to make what we're doing today. And that's Poly Green Acres. It's, for now, it will be an organic market garden, but we will be integrating biodynamic and regenerative agriculture approaches as we move through the years. And that's part of the education center that we're building, well, in part myself, but with you in a collaboration. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. And of course, we're going to have a lot of time to dissect the all of the aspects of our farm and what we're doing here. But certainly that's the beginning. That's the why. I didn't know the how. I just knew the why.
I'm so glad we got that on this and really hearing that, because for me, that intersectionality of really taking, and everybody goes through life, and in our 20s we gain a lot of experience and we see a lot of different things, and the fact that everything started connecting for you and everything started lining up on your mission and the fulfillment portion, right? And that's a big theme that's going to run through the podcast, is everybody needs a life mission that fulfills them, right? And there's a lot of emphasis on the money in capitalism, and there's a big movement now with fulfillment and mission coming out with like Simon Sinek, Start With Why. But really, that's what makes life amazing. People are not like, the pursuit of happiness is not really something that's a realistic pursuit, but the pursuit of fulfillment and being useful and being on mission. I think we have examples of that, of people who have been really successful, who just, like Elon Musk, he's kind of a polarizing figure, but he just says, I want to be useful, right? And I think he's very fulfilled and certainly made a big dent in some of these climate issues and sustainability issues. But that's, I'm really excited that all of those pieces you explained, because it really gives a great context for anybody listening who wants to do well in their own life as well. And I had a similar kind of epiphany that hit me, and really, it was going through. So I really love sports, and I wanted to be a professional soccer player from the age 13 onward. I applied. I have so many passions, and I applied to, I think, 6 different degrees at 6 different universities. But I chose kinesiology because I loved sports. I loved soccer. I loved the pursuit of excellence and development and psychology of development. So I decided to go to kin, and my twin brother also was going to kin, and we had another friend going to kin. And I was like, that's a good start. We'll see what happens from here. And I took an elective in my first year of kin, and it was waste management. So I took it because I was like, you know what? the environmental movement was picking up steam, and it's something called to me. Like, I want to do better. I want to be a more responsible person, and let's see what, this waste management. And I remember sitting in the lecture hall, and it was the first class. It was this big university lecture hall, and we were just talking about garbage and landfills and waste management. And it's not the sexiest subject, but I remember at that moment, like, the universe knocking on my door, and it was like, this is what you're meant for. This is one of your life missions now. Like, this is officially what you're meant to do on this earth. And I just remember, like, it was the same feeling I had when, I got really into soccer, where something is for you. And I think it really just called to me because it was something that I could see myself dedicating. It was so fulfilling, just the thought of doing better for the world, and it got me really excited. It was finally something that you can sink your teeth into, that is not wholly like out of selfish reasons, right? And I think people are really searching for something that is more than just, the cars, the fame, the money. They're searching for that thing that also gives them the fulfillment. But really, something about it struck me, and I signed up. That day, I went to the registrar's office and signed up for a double major in environmental studies. It was that day. And so got a degree in environmental studies, and that was amazing. I learned about renewable energy. We learned about management, politics, environmental law. And every course I took, I got more and more excited. I eventually got a big scholarship to do an environmental master's. But then my other life passion called to me, my twin brother. We were part of a band, and we decided to do full-time music, because that's what a 21-year-old who just graduated university, you have all the time in the world in your minds. We decided to do full-time music. And then after that first band, then my current business partner approached me, and we started the sports company and then the education company for kids, which was what I trained in my other major in kinesiology. So I was supposed to go to this master's of environmental studies, and then kind of got put on hold for quite a few years in terms of focusing and going after this environmental mission. And it always was calling me in the background. It's this kind of thing that keeps on knocking at your door and saying, like, Alex, you've got to focus on this. You're building your other things right now, but this is the most important thing you can do. And then I took holistic nutrition. There was an eco course in eco nutrition. Loved that. I became a holistic nutritionist about in 2017, 2018. And then I started teaching eco nutrition. And in eco nutrition, I started teaching for the same school, Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. And I was about two kind of renditions. I had taught the course, and then I was teaching it a second time. And I felt so amazing teaching this course and getting into regenerative agriculture, finding and teaching the solutions, reversing desertification, reversing food scarcity, healing the earth, learning about the drawdown effect. And all of these solutions were like manifesting themselves for the very prevalent issues that we always had grown up with, right? Climate change, greenhouse gases, pesticides, fungicides, artificial fertilizers. And then I literally told the class, I'm going to find someone who's a biodynamic farmer, and I will let you guys know. And then that week, you texted me on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, Caesar's biodynamic farmer, regenerative farmer. And my mind was officially blown. And I told the class that next, I remember telling the class that really, we hadn't even fully connected yet, but I already told the class, I was like, yeah, I'm one of my best friends is a biodynamic farmer now.
I didn't know it. I didn't know it yet when I told you guys.
With a visit.
Hey, Alex, it was I didn't know it yet, but one of my best friends, it just so happens to be a farmer.
When I told you guys I was looking for someone, I didn't know it yet, but this is the deal, yeah. And then you came on the last time I taught it. You came on as a guest speaker, and that was amazing. And the class is still, I'm sending their marks back, and the class is still messaging me back saying, like, what a great experience that was, and how excited they were about it, and to learn about how they can how they can take this information and do better, right? And a lot of people don't know. We have very limited information, and it's certainly not taught in schools. And everything that we're going to be talking about on this podcast is like, it's the reverse trend from it's going back to our roots, but we're going back with a huge new scientific knowledge, right? And you just finished a course with Dr. Elaine Ingham on the soil food web.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting. And that's brand new knowledge in the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. The soil food web approach is, here's the crazy part, is that Dr. Elaine Ingham started the soil food web school in 1996. But because a lot of the chemical companies were lobbying against any biological approaches, you know, all of her science work and she was studying the soil food web, and she actually coined the term the soil food web. She had a lot of backlash from a lot of the chemical companies because her approach is strictly biological. So the soil food web school by Dr. Elaine Ingham teaches you how to make your own compost and how to basically farm in the most organic and biological way possible, but how to also bring the microorganisms into the soil that were removed from the chemical applications or the fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers, and the tillage events, right? So what we've conventionally done, she was fighting that. So because she was fighting this, you know, you have all this commotion, and her work gets pushed back, and today here we are with now the Soil Food Web School has over, I want to say, over 5,000 students and counting, and more people are learning about the Soil Food Web. And Dr. Elaine Ingham and her husband, which I actually haven't done enough work into understanding who her husband, and I've been so obsessed with her and her work that I don't even know who her husband is, but he's also a renowned soil scientist. And certainly we will be doing some showcase on the Soil Food Web School, Dr. Elaine Ingham and her partner, and the kind of work that they have put out there for us in microscopy and understanding the soil food web, so that we can integrate that into our daily farming practices, or even in our daily backyard garden practices to that degree. So it's a very pragmatic approach in how she integrates the soil food web approach into any context that exists on Earth. So it's like, you know, depending on whatever soil you have in your backyard, there's a solution for that soil in your backyard. Or if you're a farmer, if you're farming lands that are native lands, there's a way to turn those lands into a soil food web approach farm where you're using biological compost extracts and teas and composts to basically heal the land, bring back all the microorganisms that should be there, and to create that balance, the biomimicry balance that is required in farming that we have not been able to adopt for the last, I like to keep things at 100 years, because the last 100 years were kind of the biggest pivot for humanity, especially after the Second World War, when we heavily went from organic farms all over the planet to then the chemical approach. So certainly there will be a lot of dialogue in our podcast about the soil food web, Dr. Elaine Ingham, and how we came to be today, and how the systems today are impacting us as a society, and then how we're going to evolve the current agricultural systems to benefit us and benefit the planet as well, while we're stewarding and we're doing good for our planet. Instead of doing the degenerative work, we'll be focusing our energy on the regenerative work. And that's the beautiful thing about our intersection. Your strong educational background and my strong educational background are different educations, but they are so intersectional. I'm doing the practical work here on farm, and the Soil Food Web School is a brilliant opportunity to apply that in any context. But you have a very completely different understanding, because you went to university and you got a master's in environmental studies, and you're a holistic nutritionist. You have all these great insights on
Was
a different level.
supposed to get a master's.
Supposed to, but you know what? Hey, buddy, another part about me, right?
Yes.
I dropped out of university too, so
Just got an undergrad.
there you go. You got an undergrad. You did more than me. I dropped out of school as soon as my
It's all about lifelong.
Hey, as soon as I was just saying that
Yeah, it's all about lifelong learning at the end of the day.
My political science teacher told me I did a presentation that was supposed to be a poli-sci presentation about growing industrial hemp to save the planet. That was the theme of my presentation. And he said to me, he looked at me, he said, "You're not a political science student. You're a business student. Get out of here. Stop wasting your money." And I was like, wow. It like kind of like crushed my heart. And then I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I switched over to business, and I couldn't, it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not finding any common ground here. I was just not really interested in even the business. So I put it to rest, and everything else happened. I'm a dropout official.
Well, I always say, and I think more people are realizing it, but it's all about the education you choose, and it's about lifelong learning, and it's about being in charge of your learning. And we're blessed in this day and age to be able to run universities in our car through audiobooks and have all the information of the world at our fingertips, and really merging that kind of wherever you feel you're being pushed or pulled, rather, it's really a pull to learn more about. I think that's where the true magic is in terms of learning, and then you remember and retain everything, and you're able to utilize it right off the bat. So I think it's all about the lifelong learning, and again, we have podcasts, and there's a lot of great podcasts out there already, but really we're blessed in this day and age. And I think that's a really big focus of this kind of podcast and the environmental movement, and our take on it, in the sense of it's non-polarized, very positive view on where we are, in the sense of we're very grateful for the way that the industrialized world has shaped lives in a great way for a very, very large sort of section of daily life has improved dramatically in the last 30 years. And objectively, there's, outputs that are not desirable. And now we are trying to find solutions for all of these outputs. We're not about the blame game. We're not about being negative or antagonizing anybody. It's just really about understanding this is where this kind of path has taken us. Now we have brand new understanding of what these outputs are doing, and these are the objective truths of how we need to move in a capitalist society and in a globalized society. These are now the new solutions. Let's not spend any energy antagonizing people. Let's spend energy on having practical, objective solutions and making people excited and positive about these solutions, making it profitable for people, making it healthier for people, making it more fulfilling for people. And these are big tasks. These are big challenges. The solutions are going to require multi-levels. I think the best way that we've found, and the best framework and frame of mind, is really that positive. Let's spend no time casting blame, pointing fingers. Let's spend all the time in just educating people in a very positive and meaningful way about the great way we can live life. Because everyone ultimately wants to do well by the world deep inside. They want to do well by themselves and their families, both in health and wealth and fulfillment. And they want to do well by the world, because no one wants to cast their children into an unsustainable, chaotic, environmentally crazy world. Everyone wants the best for their children. So I think that's a really great way to kind of announce here that's our framework for this kind of environmental context that we're speaking in.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's you just hit it on the head there. We're really not focusing our energy on any anti-movements. We're focusing our energy on pro-movements, because that's what we want to manifest. We want to be pro-life. Actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not pro-life in that context. I'm talking about pro-farming life and pro healthy, organic, regenerative practices. In that we're all about life. We're all about creating new ways of innovation, how we can make farming accessible to the world, and how we can be pro saving our planet in any way that we can. How to be a steward of our planet without pointing at industries that may or may not be detrimental or have their own carbon footprint that's immense, because we're all kind of responsible for it. We are all collectively one, and we are all contributing to all of the global footprint. So we're all accountable, we're all responsible, and the best way to be proactive about that is to actually do something physical that can resonate with the masses, that is not an anti-movement but a pro-movement. We don't want to be anti-gas, or we don't want to be anti-fossil fuels, or we don't want to be anti-anything, because then we just get more of those things. We want to be pro-organic market gardens. We want to be pro-soil food web approach. We want to be pro biodynamic farming agriculture, pro-localized community farming efforts, pro education for children in the farming world, right? These are the things that will make us strive and manifest positive outcomes versus the polarizing, finger pointing belief system of some environmentalists and activists who have a very strong stance. We definitely want to create that distinction that this is strictly about a positive approach and a positive outlook on how we can manage the areas of life where humans have disturbed nature, and how we can regenerate those areas of our planet that we have all contributed to through ignorance and through not knowing and those kinds of things. It's all a natural thing, and we shouldn't be casting blame, because then we end up in shame, and we end up in guilt, and we end up in all those things where we are not giving the planet what it deserves because we're just yelling and screaming at each other. So, and then we're still consuming while we scream and yell at each other and polarizing each other, creating more tribalism. So yeah, that's a great point, Alex. And buddy, I'm really excited to be able to have these conversations with you, and eventually with some guest speakers who will be on our podcast. And yeah, this is a very, very great start to our podcast on Earth Day. Happy Earth Day.
It's a new day, and a fairly new one in the calendar, but we wanted to honor it because it's been gaining steam, and rightfully so. And we want to encourage the knowledge and spread of knowledge, and getting everybody on board with, how are we living on this world? Who are we? What is humans? How are we progressing, and how does the natural world work, right? These are things that are not really covered in any school systems. So there's a lot of learning that needs to be done outside of the school systems. We don't really even learn about how our energy gets to us, how our cars work, how the cars are manufactured. There's a lot to learn, and to be fair to the curriculum developers, there's been a lot of change, and there's even more to learn in this complex world. That's why we want to honor Earth Day, and we want to honor the earth that we're all dependent on, and this is all part of the Regeneration Nation movement, is regenerate. We want a beautiful, vibrant, fully biodiverse, healthy world where we can really connect with nature and get back to how we were and how we evolved, but get back to our kind of spiritual stewardship of the earth. And it's nice to talk about that kind of element too, because we were getting away from that in our culture right now. We're very secular and very strictly capitalist and very city based. So having more focus on this really is healing for a lot of people. It has been healing for me. And again, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect by any means. And one of the things that we're going to continue to talk about in the podcast is how to just do the best that you can and feel good about doing better and just learning more. So I think, this is a great time to kind of wrap up the first episode. I want to keep it to about 30-40 minutes per episode. And we want to thank everyone for joining us here. This has been a momentous occasion for myself and for Caesar, and we just can't wait to dive into the next episodes here. We've got a lot of amazing things to talk about, and we want to hear your feedback, and create a community. Really, at the end of the day, we want to create a community and just have a lot of amazing people working together on really fulfilling mission of making this planet amazing, and sustainable and regeneration.
Bit of a tongue twister there. Definitely, friends. Thank you very much for coming out today, and we're really
Yeah.
stoked that you are listening to us. We also want to let you know that we are going to try and merge our Riverside with our Anchor account. That way, we can stream our podcast on multiple different podcast outlets like Spotify, like Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. There's a couple other ones that are available there. So that way, we can have our audience be expanded on all platforms. So yeah, we're really excited to be here sharing with you. And like Alex said, just creating a community. And the community is always open for feedback, and we're always open to hear your take on things. If you have any comments or any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We will have an opportunity to have like a questions or answers a segment where in the future we'll have people coming on, and we can address some major questions that people can ask us, and we'll pull them from our platforms when we get there. So thanks again, Alex. I appreciate your time, brother, and really pumped to be here with you.
I appreciate you, man, and really excited for this and for this journey. And I want to thank everyone again for listening.
Okay, friends, take care. Until the next one.